The grand chamber fell silent as Ambassador Jack Mitchell walked to the center platform. The room was massive, with curved walls that reached up into darkness. Hundreds of alien representatives sat in rising tiers, their eyes, some glowing, some blinking, some not eyes at all, focused on the lone human. "Members of the Galactic Council," Jack said, his voice steady despite the weight on his shoulders. "I stand before you one final time to appeal for Earth." The council leader, a tall being named Zixlorel, with shimmering blue skin, leaned forward. "Ambassador Mitchell, Earth has been given many chances. Your kind continues to show aggression, unpredictability, and dangerous advancement rates." Jack looked around the room, seeing mostly cold stares. After 50 years of contact with the galactic community, humanity had made some friends, but far more enemies. Earth's rapid technological growth scared them. Human creativity frightened them. Human willingness to fight terrified them. "We are young as a spacefaring species," Jack said. "We make mistakes, but we learn from them. Look at the medical breakthroughs we've shared, the art we've created, the—" "Enough," interrupted a reptilian counselor. "We have reviewed all evidence. Your species modified our peaceful defense technology into weapons. You have fought 3 wars with the Crawl over mining rights. Your entertainment glorifies violence." Jack clenched his fists. "Those Crawl mining operations were on our colony worlds. We had legal claim. The Council has reached its decision," Zixlorel announced, cutting Jack off. "By unanimous vote, Earth and all human colonies are to be isolated from the galactic community." The chamber erupted in murmurs. Jack felt his heart sink. Isolated? For how long? Until such time as humanity proves itself worthy, if ever. Zixlorel's voice was cold. "A barrier will be established around your solar system. No communications or travel will be possible in either direction. You're exiling an entire species," Jack shouted, abandoning diplomatic protocol. "There are 11 billion humans. You can't just cut us off from the stars. The decision is final. You have 3 standard months to recall your ships and citizens." Back on Earth, in the United Nations emergency session, Jack delivered the grim news. The room was packed with world leaders, military commanders, and top scientists. Screens showed crowds gathering in cities worldwide as the announcement spread. President Samantha Ellis rose slowly from her seat. She was a tall woman with steel-gray hair and eyes that had seen too many crises. "How long can we hold out?" she asked Dr. Alan Walsh, the head of Earth's Science Council. Alan ran a hand through his thinning hair. "We've become dependent on off-world resources, medicines, certain metals, fuel. We'll need to adapt quickly." "Can we break this barrier they're planning?" asked General Frank Cooper. "Not with current technology," Alan replied. "From what little information Ambassador Mitchell could gather, it operates on principles we barely understand." Silence fell across the chamber. Billions of lives suddenly cut off from the future they had been promised among the stars. President Ellis walked to the main podium. The cameras focused on her face as she addressed not just the room, but all of humanity. "Today, the Galactic Council has shown its true nature," she said, her voice firm. "They fear us not for what we've done wrong, but for what we might become. They see our potential and tremble." She paused, looking directly into the camera. "They believe isolation will weaken us. They expect us to tear ourselves apart, fighting over dwindling resources. They are wrong. This exile will not be our end. It will be our beginning." Applause began to build in the chamber. "Let them build their barrier. We will study it. Let them cut us off. We will grow stronger, and one day we will return to the stars on our own terms." The applause grew louder. "The Galactic Council has made their decision." Her eyes narrowed. "Now let's make them regret it." 3 months later, Jack stood with President Ellis at the main observatory. They watched as a shimmering wall of energy formed around the outer edges of their solar system, sealing Earth off from the galaxy. "What now?" Jack asked quietly. Ellis smiled grimly. Now we get to work. 5 years passed since the barrier went up around Earth's solar system. The first year had been the hardest. Riots broke out when certain medicines ran low. Countries threatened war over the remaining alien metals. But slowly, humanity adapted. Dr. Alan Walsh stood in his laboratory beneath the Rocky Mountains, staring at the strange readings on his screen. His team of 50 scientists worked around him, their faces lit by blue monitor light. For 3 years, they had studied the barrier, sending probes to the edge of the solar system. "I think we've got something," said Lisa Carpenter, the team's lead engineer. She pushed her glasses up and pointed to a pattern on her screen. "The barrier isn't constant. It pulses. Every 43 hours, there's a tiny fluctuation." Alan's eyes widened. "If we could predict that pulse, we might send something through," Lisa finished, "or at least get readings from the other side." In another facility, deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, Colonel Henry Davis watched as his soldiers trained. They moved in perfect unison, testing weapons developed using reverse-engineered alien technology. When Earth was first cut off, the world's militaries had been enemies. Now they trained together, preparing for the day the barrier would fall. "Again," Henry ordered as the squad completed their drill. "Faster this time. If we ever face the Council's forces, we'll need every advantage." His second-in-command, Major Diane Powell, approached with a tablet. "New orders from President Ellis. They want us to prepare for a possible breakthrough. Dr. Walsh's team has made progress." Henry nodded. "About time. Tell the troops we're moving to Stage 2 preparations." In Washington, D.C., the World Government Headquarters bustled with activity. What had once been separate nations now worked together under necessity. President Ellis, now in her second term leading the United Earth Government, studied reports from around the world. "Production of synthetic alien metals is up 30%, said her economic advisor. "The food crisis in former Asia has stabilized. And Dr. Walsh says they've made a significant discovery about the barrier." Ellis looked up. "How significant?" "Significant enough that he's flying here to tell you in person." 3 days later, Ellis sat with the world's top leaders and scientists in the secure conference room. Dr. Walsh stood at the front, his excitement visible despite his exhaustion. "We've been studying the barrier wrong," he explained. "We thought it was just a wall. It's not. It's a filter. It was designed to let certain energy wavelengths through, probably so the Council could monitor us. But that's a weakness we can exploit." He pulled up complex diagrams on the main screen. "With Lisa's new technology, we can send a microprobe through during a pulse fluctuation. It won't be detected, and it can send back data about what's happening out there." Ellis leaned forward. "How soon?" 1 month to build and test the probe. Another to position it correctly." The room buzzed with excited whispers. For the first time in 5 years, they would see beyond their prison. 2 months later, the world held its breath. In control centers across Earth, scientists and leaders watched as the tiny probe, no bigger than a rice grain, approached the barrier during its predicted fluctuation. Lisa's hand shook as she monitored the readings. Fluctuation in 3, 2, 1. The probe slipped through. For 70 seconds, data streamed back before the probe burned out. But it was enough. The room erupted in cheers as the first images from beyond appeared on screen. What they saw shocked them into silence. A Council warship, badly damaged. Debris floating in space. Signs of a massive battle. Alan zoomed in on one image that showed strange, shadow-like ships attacking the Council world. "What is that?" Ellis asked, her voice barely audible. "I don't know," Alan said. "But one thing is clear. The Council has bigger problems than us now." Ellis straightened her shoulders. "Then it's time to solve our own problem. Begin Phase 2. If the Council is distracted, we have our chance. We're breaking out of this cage." 10 years into Earth's exile, the underground research facility hummed with energy. Dr. Susan Reynolds, A quantum physicist with bright eyes and a mind that never stopped working stared at the holographic display. The data from 12 more microprobes floated before her, each showing more disturbing images from beyond the barrier. "They're losing," she said to Dr. Walsh, who stood beside her. His hair had gone completely white in the decade since Exile began. "The Council worlds are falling one by one to these things." The images showed shadow-like ships that seemed to absorb light around them. The aliens had named them the Void Swarm in their distress broadcasts. The probes had picked up emergency signals from dozens of worlds. "How many Council planets have been destroyed?" Alan asked. "At least 14 confirmed. Maybe more," Susan replied. "The swarm consumes everything: resources, technology, even people." President Ellis entered the room, flanked by her advisors and Colonel Davis, now General Davis. At 62, Ellis moved more slowly than she once did, but her eyes remained sharp. "Dr. Reynolds, I understand you have news beyond the swarm reports," Ellis said. Susan nodded and switched the display. "I found a way to break through the barrier, not just with tiny probes, but with an actual ship." The room fell silent. For 10 years, this had been their ultimate goal. "The barrier has a quantum frequency," Susan explained, using simple terms for the non-scientists present. "It's like a musical note that never changes, but I found its opposite note, one that cancels it out. If we create a field around a ship that plays this opposite note loud enough, we can punch a hole through." General Davis frowned. "How big a hole? How long would it stay open?" "Large enough for one ship at a time. It would stay open for about 3 minutes before the barrier repairs itself." Ellis studied the equations floating in the air. "Can we build this technology?" "We already have a prototype," Susan said proudly. "Lisa Carpenter's team built it based on my calculations. We've tested it on barrier samples in the lab." Ellis turned to her military advisor. "How soon can we have a ship ready?" "The EDS Defiance is our most advanced vessel," General Davis said. "Built with everything we've learned from alien tech and our own innovations. It could be fitted with Dr. Reynolds' device in 2 months." Ellis nodded slowly, then looked around the room at Earth's best minds. "We need to decide something important. The Council exiled us, left us to die. Now they're facing extinction. Do we help them? Or do we break free and find our own way among the stars, leaving them to their fate?" The room erupted in debate. Some argued for justice. Let the Council face the consequences of their actions. Others pushed for mercy. Humanity should prove itself better than its judges. After hours of discussion, Ellis raised her hand for silence. "I've heard all sides. Now I'll tell you my decision." She stood straighter, her voice firm. "We will break through the barrier. We will see what's happening with our own eyes. And if we can help the Council, we will, not because they deserve it, but because that's who we are. We're going to show them what humanity truly stands for." She turned to General Davis. "Begin preparations. I want our best people on that ship." 2 months later, the Defiance floated at the edge of the solar system, facing the shimmering barrier that had imprisoned humanity for a decade. The ship was sleek and powerful, unlike anything Earth had built before Exile. In the control room of the research facility, Susan activated the prototype. Quantum disruptor powering up, targeting the barrier at coordinates 227 Mark 59. On the ship's bridge, Captain Kelly Warren took a deep breath. She had trained for years for this mission. "All crew, secure for barrier breach," she ordered. "We are making history today." The ship's engines glowed bright blue as it moved toward the barrier. The quantum disruptor fired, creating a visible distortion, a hole in the wall around Earth. "Breach successful," Susan shouted as sensors showed the Defiance pushing through. "They're out." For the first time in 10 years, humanity had broken free of its prison. The stars beckoned once more. Captain Kelly Warren felt her ship shudder as it pushed through the barrier. The view screen showed streaks of blue light washing over the hull of the EDS Defiance. Then, suddenly, they were through. Stars spread out before them, unfiltered by Earth's prison wall for the first time in a decade. "Barrier passage complete," reported the pilot, a young man named Steve Rogers. His hands moved steadily over the controls despite the historic moment. All systems functioning normally. Kelly released the breath she had been holding. "Send the signal back to Earth. Operation Exodus is a success." On the bridge, 20 crew members, Earth's finest soldiers, scientists, and diplomats, broke into cheers. They had trained for years for this mission, studying alien languages, combat techniques, and the limited data they had on the Void Swarm. Dr. Nathan Gray, who had worked with Susan Reynolds to perfect the barrier disruption technology, checked his instruments. "The hole is already starting to close behind us. We have about 2 months before the device can create another stable opening. We're on our own until then." Kelly nodded. She had known this was a one-way trip for now. "Communications officer, send out a passive scan. Let's see what's waiting for us out here." Linda Grayson, the communications expert, worked her console. "Captain, I'm picking up distress signals. Dozens of them, from all directions. And..." She paused, her eyes widening. "There's a battle happening just 3 light days from our position." "Put it on screen. Maximum magnification." The view screen shifted to show distant flashes of light. Even at this distance, they could see council ships, the same elegant designs that had visited Earth before Exile, firing at dark, shapeless vessels that seemed to absorb the weapons' fire. "The Void Swarm," Kelly whispered. "Captain," said Greg Bennett, the tactical officer, "the council ships are losing badly. Their weapons barely damaged the swarm vessels." Kelly studied the battle. Her orders were to gather information and return to Earth, not to engage, not to reveal humanity's escape from the barrier. But as she watched, one of the council ships broke apart under the swarm's attack. Escape pods launched in all directions. "How long to reach that battle zone?" she asked. "At maximum speed, 6 hours," the pilot replied. Kelly stood up from her command chair. This was the moment that would define humanity's return to the stars. "All hands, battle stations. Pilot, set course to intercept. Tactical, prepare our weapons." Greg looked up in surprise. "Captain, our orders." "Our orders were to assess the situation and use our judgment," Kelly interrupted. "I'm using mine. Those people need help." As the Defiance raced toward the battle, the crew prepared the ship's unique weapons. During their isolation, Earth's scientists had developed technology unlike anything the galaxy had seen before: scatter field disruptors that used the barrier's own energy principles against enemies, quantum-locked missiles that could phase through shields, and gravity pulse cannons that could tear apart matter at the molecular level. 6 hours later, the Defiance dropped out of faster-than-light travel on the edge of the battle zone. The situation had worsened. Only 3 council ships remained functional, surrounded by over 20 swarm vessels. Debris and bodies floated in the vacuum. "Communications, open a channel to the council ships," Kelly ordered. "Channel open. This is Captain Kelly Warren of the Earth Defense Ship Defiance. We are here to assist. Stand by." There was a moment of shocked silence from the council ship before a voice responded. "Earth vessel. That's impossible. Earth is quarantined." Kelly allowed herself a small smile. "We got better. Now move your ships to coordinates I'm sending you. We're about to show you what humans can do." She turned to Greg. "Target the largest swarm vessel. Fire the gravity pulse cannon. Let's introduce ourselves." The Defiance's main weapon powered up, drawing energy from the ship's experimental core. A blinding white beam lanced out, striking the center of the largest swarm ship. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the dark vessel began to collapse in on itself, crushed by artificial gravity 1,000 times Earth normal. The swarm ships turned, sensing a new threat. "Here they come," Kelly said calmly. "Let's show the galaxy what they missed while we were gone." The Defiance moved with surprising speed for a ship its size. 3 void swarm vessels converged on it, their dark surfaces absorbing the light around them. On the bridge, Tactical Officer Greg Bennett targeted the closest enemy. "Scatterfield disruptors charge," he reported, firing. Unlike traditional weapons that the swarm could absorb, the scatterfield disrupted the very matter that made up their ships. Where the beam touched, the black material of the swarm vessel began to dissolve into particles. "Direct hit," Greg called out as the swarm ship broke apart. Captain Kelly Warren watched as the remaining swarm vessels pulled back, seemingly confused by this new threat. "They're retreating. They've never seen our weapons before." "Captain," Linda said from communications, "the Council flagship is hailing us." On screen, the view screen showed a blue-skinned alien with silver eyes, an admiral of the Council fleet based on the markings on his uniform. His expression mixed shock with suspicion. "Earth vessel," the admiral said stiffly. "I am Admiral Drevsora of the Galactic Council. Your assistance was unexpected. How did you breach the isolation barrier?" Kelly smiled thinly. "Hello, Admiral. Let's just say that 10 years gives humans plenty of time to solve problems. Are there survivors who need medical attention? We have doctors aboard." The Admiral hesitated, clearly struggling with the idea of accepting help from exiles. "Yes, we have many wounded. Over 300 civilians were on the destroyed vessels. We'll prepare to receive them." Defiance out, Kelly turned to her crew. "Prepare medical bay and emergency quarters, and alert our diplomatic team. Once the injured are stable, we'll need to talk." Hours later, the Defiance had taken aboard over 100 injured aliens from 6 different species. Earth's doctors, who had studied alien physiology for years using old medical texts, worked to save as many as possible. In the ship's conference room, Kelly sat with Olivia Monroe, Earth's chief diplomat for the mission. Across from them sat Admiral Drevsora and 2 Council representatives who had survived the attack. "Your weapons," the Admiral began without preamble. "They actually hurt the swarm. Nothing we have does more than slow them down." Olivia nodded. "In our isolation, we had to innovate. We studied the barrier that imprisoned us and developed technologies based on similar principles." "The Void Swarm appeared 3 years ago," one of the Council members explained. "They have consumed 12 major systems already. Billions dead. We've lost nearly half our fleet trying to stop them." "And where was Earth during all this?" the Admiral asked sharply. "Comfortable behind your protective barrier while the galaxy burned." Kelly's eyes flashed with anger. "The barrier you put there. We had no idea what was happening out here until recently, when we managed to send microprobes through." The room fell silent. The humans and aliens stared at each other, 10 years of separation like a wall between them. Finally, Olivia spoke softly. "Admiral, we didn't come to assign blame. We came to help. Despite what the Council did to Earth, we're offering our assistance." "Why would you help us?" the second Council member asked. "After what we did." "Because that's what humans do," Kelly replied simply. "We may fight among ourselves. We may be violent and unpredictable by your standards. But when faced with a common enemy, we unite. And we don't abandon people who need help, even those who abandoned us." The Admiral looked down at his hands. "The Council is in disarray. Many homeworlds have fallen. Our forces are scattered across 17 sectors trying to evacuate civilians." "Then let us help coordinate," Olivia suggested. "The Defiance is just one ship, but Earth has more. Many more, and all with the same weapons that just drove off the swarm." "More ships?" The Admiral looked up sharply. "How many more?" Kelly and Olivia exchanged glances. "That depends," Kelly said carefully, "on whether the Council is willing to officially end Earth's exile." The Admiral's silver eyes narrowed. "You're negotiating, while the galaxy burns." "No," Olivia corrected him gently. "We're offering a chance to correct a mistake. You exiled us. We're here to save you anyway. The question is whether you'll let us do it properly with all our resources, or whether your pride is worth more than the lives of your people. 2 months after the Defiance's first battle, 5 more Earth ships broke through the barrier. Each carried advanced weapons, supplies, and more human soldiers and scientists eager to join the fight. Fleet Commander Daniel Foster stood on the bridge of the largest vessel, the EDS Horizon, surveying the makeshift base they had established in the Proxima system. "Status report," he ordered. His second-in-command, Captain Laura Simmons, checked her tablet. "The Council has officially approved our presence in 9 systems. 3 Council worlds still refuse our help despite direct swarm threats to their sectors." Daniel shook his head. 10 years of exile, and some Council members still viewed humans as more dangerous than the Void Swarm. And the forward base, Proxima Station, is at 80% operational capacity. Engineer Paul Morrison has integrated our technology with Council systems. They're still asking how our scatterfield weapons work. "And we're still not telling them everything," Daniel replied. The Council had agreed to limited cooperation, but Earth wasn't ready to share all its technological advances yet. On Proxima Station, Paul Morrison worked side by side with Tekthar, a 4-armed alien scientist from one of the Council's most advanced worlds. Together, they modified Council ships to carry smaller versions of Earth's weapons. "Your gravity pulse technology is remarkable," Tekthar said, his translator converting his whistling language to English. "My people studied similar concepts for centuries without success." Paul connected another power relay. "Necessity forced us to try new approaches. When you're trapped in a box, you either give up or find a way to think outside it." Tekthar's yellow eyes blinked rapidly, his species equivalent of a thoughtful nod. "The Council was wrong about humans. We feared your adaptability. Now it may save us all." In another section of the station, Olivia Monroe attended an emergency Council session via holographic projection. Only 23 of the original 50 Council members remained. The others lost to swarm attacks or cut off from communication. "Earth vessels have successfully defended the Rigel and Deneb systems," she reported. "But the swarm is adapting to our tactics. They're becoming more coordinated, focusing attacks on our ships specifically." Zix Laurel, the Council leader who had pronounced Earth's exile a decade earlier, looked noticeably older and worn. "We have reports that the swarm is heading toward the Arcturus system. If it falls, they will have a direct path to the Council homeworld. We'll divert 3 ships to reinforce Arcturus," Olivia promised, though she knew Earth's forces were stretched thin. After the meeting, she contacted Captain Warren on the Defiance, now patrolling the edge of Council space. "The Council is finally realizing how much they need us," Olivia said wearily. "But it may be too late. The swarm is growing faster than we can destroy them." Kelly's image flickered on the screen. "Dr. Carrie Wilson thinks she's found something. Her team has been studying swarm communication patterns. She believes there's a central intelligence directing them, a hive mind of sorts. If we could locate it," Olivia began. "We could end this war," Kelly finished, "but it would mean pushing deep into swarm territory. A suicide mission." Back on Earth, President Ellis reviewed the latest reports from the front lines. The barrier around Earth's solar system remained, though Council engineers now worked alongside humans to create stable gates for ships to pass through. "The Council has officially requested that we commit all available resources to the war effort," her advisor said. "They're asking for 20 more ships." Ellis looked at the star map showing swarm-controlled territory, nearly a third of Gnome space now marked in red. "Tell Commander Foster to prepare for a major offensive, and send word to Dr. Wilson. She has full authorization to pursue her hive mind theory. If there's a way to end this war quickly, we need to find it." As she dismissed her advisors, Ellis walked to the window overlooking the sprawling Unified Earth Government complex. Massive shipyards were visible in the distance, building vessels that would soon join the fight. "They exiled us to protect themselves from us," she murmured. "Now we're the only thing standing between them and extinction." The universe has a strange sense of humor. The combined Earth Council fleet gathered at the edge of the Arcturus system. 37 ships, 15 from Earth and 22 from various Council worlds, prepared for what might be the final battle of the war. Through the main viewport of the command ship, the swirling clouds of the Arcturus nebula glowed blue and purple against the blackness of space. Fleet Commander Daniel Foster looked at the holographic display showing their formation. The Council homeworld is 3 systems away. If we lose here, there's nothing stopping the swarm from taking it. Admiral Drevsora, now working closely with the humans, nodded gravely. My people have officially removed the barrier around Earth's system. Your world is free again. Just in time for us all to die together, Daniel said with a grim smile. How fitting. On the Defiance, Captain Kelly Warren briefed her crew on their special mission. Dr. Carrie Wilson, a brilliant neurobiologist with short red hair and intense green eyes, explained her discovery using simple diagrams. The swarm operates as a collective, she said, but not like bees or ants, more like neurons in a brain. And every brain has a central processor, a core. She pointed to a pulsing dot on her map. We've tracked energy patterns through captured swarm material. This location is the source of all commands. Ryan Phillips, who had been promoted to first officer, studied the map with concern. That's deep behind enemy lines. How do we reach it? While the main fleet engages the swarm forces here, Kelly said, pointing to the nebula, we take the Defiance through this route. It's dangerous. Radiation levels are extreme. But the swarm avoids these areas. We can approach their command center undetected. And then? Asked Linda from communications. Kelly looked at Dr. Wilson, who held up a small device. This is a resonance bomb. It creates a cascade effect in the quantum field that links all swarm entities. It should disrupt their entire network. Should? Ryan asked. 93% probability, Dr. Wilson replied. The highest we can calculate. Kelly looked around at her crew. I won't lie. This is likely a one-way trip. I'm asking for volunteers only. Every hand in the room went up without hesitation. Back on the command ship, Daniel received the message that the Defiance was ready. He turned to his communications officer. Tell all ships. Operation Endgame begins in 30 minutes. As the fleet prepared, a council ship arrived carrying an unexpected visitor. Jack Mitchell, the former ambassador who had pleaded Earth's case 10 years ago, stepped onto the bridge. Now in his 60s, he walked with a slight limp but stood tall as he approached Daniel. Ambassador Mitchell, Daniel said in surprise. What are you doing here? No longer an ambassador, Jack corrected. Just an old man who wants to see this through. President Ellis thought you might need someone who remembers how this all began. Before Daniel could respond, alarms blared across the command deck. Multiple swarm signatures detected. Called out the sensor officer. Hundreds of them. They're coming from inside the nebula. The view screen showed the nebula churning as dark shapes emerge. Far more swarm vessels than intelligence had predicted. It was not just a fleet. It was an armada. They knew we were coming. Admiral Drevsora said in shock. This is a trap. Daniel's mind raced through options. The plan had been to engage the swarm here while the Defiance slipped behind enemy lines. Now they faced overwhelming odds. Message to all ships, he ordered. New formation Delta. Defensive positions. We hold here no matter the cost. He turned to the communications officer. Signal the Defiance. Tell them to proceed with their mission immediately. We'll give them the time they need. As the first wave of swarm ships approached, the Earth and Council vessels moved into position. Weapons powered up across the fleet. Jack Mitchell stood at a viewport, watching the dark shapes grow larger. 10 years ago, they feared what humans might become, he said quietly. Today, they'll see exactly what that means. The space between the fleets lit up with weapons fire as the battle began. The largest conflict in the galaxy's history was underway, and humanity was at its center, not as outcasts, but as its last, best hope. The battle raged across the Arcturus system. Earth ships fought alongside Council vessels against waves of swarm attackers. The space around them, filled with explosions, debris, and the dark matter remains of destroyed swarm craft. On the command ship, Fleet Commander Daniel Foster watched as 3 of his vessels were lost in a concentrated swarm attack. Redirect the Horizon and Stalwart to Sector 7. We can't let them break through. Admiral Drevsora coordinated the Council ships, their weapons now enhanced with human technology. The 4th wave is coming. All ships, prepare to engage. Jack Mitchell stood silently on the bridge, watching these former enemies now fighting together for survival. He thought about how differently things might have gone if the Council had partnered with humanity instead of fearing them. Far from the main battle, the Defiance pushed through a radiation belt that no normal ship could survive. Special shields developed on Earth during the exile years kept the crew alive, though systems sparked and failed around them. Radiation levels at maximum tolerable limits, reported Ryan Phillips from his station. Hull integrity at 62%. Captain Kelly Warren gripped her chair as the ship shuddered. Distance to target. 8 minutes at current speed, answered Steve from the pilot station. Swarm Command Center is just beyond this belt. Dr. Carrie Wilson monitored her equipment carefully. The resonance bomb was sensitive. Too much radiation could render it useless. The device is stable, but we need to hurry. As they emerged from the radiation belt, an enormous structure came into view. Unlike the swarm ships, it glowed with pulsing blue energy, a vast web of interconnected spheres spanning several kilometers. That's it, Carrie whispered. The central node, the brain of the entire swarm. Kelly studied the readouts. No defensive vessels. They never expected anyone to come this way. Captain, Linda called from communications. I'm receiving fragments from the main battle. Our fleet is taking heavy losses. Over 40% of Allied ships are damaged or destroyed. Kelly took a deep breath. Then we don't have much time. Pilot, take us in. We need to get within 200 meters for the bomb to work. As the Defiance approached the massive structure, tendrils of energy reached out toward them, sensing the intrusion. They've detected us. Greg shouted from tactical. Energy buildup. They're preparing to attack. Evasive maneuvers, Kelly ordered. Get us close enough to deploy the bomb. The ship swerved as energy beams lanced out from the structure. One struck their port side, sending crew members flying across the bridge. Hull breach on Deck 3, Ryan reported. Sealing emergency bulkheads. 150 meters to optimal range, Steve called out, his hand steady on the controls despite blood running down his face from a cut on his forehead. Carrie watched her devices read out anxiously. The bomb is ready, but we need to be closer. Another hit rocked the ship. Systems failed across the bridge as lights flickered. Engine power failing. Steve reported grimly. We're losing thrust. Kelly made her decision. All power to forward momentum. We're going to ram it. The crew exchanged glances but nodded in understanding. No one objected. It's been an honor, Kelly said simply, then activated the ship-wide communication. All hands, brace for impact. The Defiance surged forward on its remaining power, directly toward the central node of the swarm. Energy beams continued to strike the ship, tearing away sections of hull. Optimal range achieved, Carrie called out. Activating resonance device now. She pressed the activation sequence. The bomb began to pulse with increasing frequency, matching the quantum signature of the swarm network. Back at the main battle, Daniel watched in horror as more Allied ships fell to the seemingly endless swarm vessels. Then, suddenly, something strange happened. The swarm ships paused, as if confused. What's happening? Jack asked, leaning forward. The Defiance, Admiral Drevsora whispered. They must have reached the target. Across the battlefield, the swarm vessels began to shudder and drift. Some collided with each other, while others simply went dark. On the Defiance, the crew watched as the central structure before them pulsed erratically. The resonance bomb's effect spread through the quantum network, disrupting the hive mind's control. "It's working," Carrie said with wonder in her voice. As systems failed around them and the ship began to break apart, Kelly looked at her brave crew. For Earth. For everyone. The structure exploded in a brilliant flash of light, taking the Defiance with it. But across the galaxy, every swarm entity simultaneously lost connection to the central mind. The vast threat that had consumed countless worlds simply stopped. 3 weeks later, in the Grand Council chamber where Earth had been exiled a decade before, Jack Mitchell stood once again at the center platform. But this time, the remaining council members rose in respect as he entered. Today, Zix Laurel announced, "We acknowledge our error and honor Earth's sacrifice. Humanity did not seek revenge when they could have. They saved those who rejected them. The Council offers Earth not just reinstatement, but leadership in our new galactic coalition." Jack looked around at the chamber, thinking of Kelly Warren and the crew of the Defiance, of all who had fought and died. "Humanity accepts your offer," he said simply, "not because we seek power, but because we seek understanding. That is, after all, the true strength of the human spirit."